Hey guys, happy November 2024. It's Evan, and today's video is about handling and working with children's pythons. People have been asking questions about taming children's pythons, and so that's basically what this video is about. But I don't actually really use the term taming with snakes just because I don't really think that's what we're doing with them. I think that snakes fundamentally are not domesticated animals yet. And I think that what we really are doing is we're learning to work with them and manage them and understand their behaviors and also getting them very used to us. But I think taming, quote unquote, is the realm of domestic animals. And I don't think we're there yet, especially with some of these species. I think we're getting close with things like children's pythons and things, or not children, but ball pythons and things. But these animals, I don't think taming is where we are at. So what I would like you guys to take away from this is that there are three basic things that I want to talk about. The first one is you can't fight development. The second one is understanding the motivations behind why snakes bite and what to do about and how to avoid those and kind of read those situations. And the third thing I want to encourage you guys to do is think about what you want out of your animals in terms of how calm and safe and reliable they are. So that's kind of where we are. But to get into this, I'm going to show you some baby children's pythons because these are what the meat of this video is about, is working with these specifically. And it's kind of generalized information to some degree, but also I think some specialized stuff for children's pythons. But here's the bottom line with children's pythons is, in any snake, is you can't really fight development. And children's pythons and most baby snakes are more nervous than they are as they get older. And so part and parcel to that is they are more defensive, okay? And so when I say you can't fight development, there's some natural calming and confidence building that just comes from age and growth. And one thing I really make the point of is I don't really muck with any of my snakes, baby snakes, until they're about a year old, other than just simply maintenance handling them. So when you think about like these animals right now, they are very much vulnerable to anything in the wild. And so they're going to be nervous and defensive. And that's the first reason that snakes will bite, is that they are defensive, meaning it's a get away from me bite, okay? And so when that happens, they kind of coil back. They're actually not going to come towards you. They're going to maybe try to move until they get cornered in a position in the cage or something like that. And from there, they might strike out defensively, which is not going to be a bite and wrap. It's going to be a strike and let go. And it's basically like, you know, think about like if you were getting confronted by somebody, you're not the aggressor, you're actually intimidated by that. You're going to back up, back up, back up. If they get to a point where they've cornered you, you might push out once or twice. But if they give you space, you're not going to continue to go and beat them up. You know, it's the same idea. Defensive striking is retreating, retreating, retreating until they can retreat no more. And then if you push that issue too much, you're going to get a defensive strike at them. So that's one way that you're going to get a bite. And I'll just tell you in general, I don't consider children's pythons super defensive species of animals. I don't see a lot of defensive biting out of them. It's not to say that you won't, especially when they're little. They might hustle away from you and then tink, 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 like machine gun tag you a couple of times. But when they're this size, guys, it's pretty inconsequential to get bit. They can barely break skin at this point. The other thing I'll tell you is that it's actually kind of the bigger risk at this size especially is that you're going to damage their mouths by biting you, and maybe if you recoiled or something. So I try to avoid getting bit by them more for their welfare than anything else. So that's the big thing to understand about defensiveness, is that it's just something that will happen if you are threatening to your animal. And that will go away over time with age and development and consistent handling, as long as you are not doing things to scare them consistently or hurt them consistently. So where we start to see biting in children's pythons more often, and you can actually even see it when they're this age, but it is when they start to get a pretty good food response. And even at this age, it kind of cracks me up sometimes, is that they will bite my finger and food wrap it and try to throttle my finger to death and then continue to eat. And I'm like, my finger weighs more than you children's. And so anyways, with food bites, and I'm going to go and show you on some more mature animals because I can reliably get that behavior out of them. But with a food bite, the way to manage that is with tap or hook training. And I'm not going to reinvent the wheel with that. I've posted some videos talking about the theory behind that. But also, there's just plenty of good stuff out online. Sorry, my tripod is failing me right now. But there's plenty of good information online about that. But essentially, tap and hook training is when you're not going to go feed your animal, you touch them with something that is not your hand first, and you're waiting for some behavior that shows you that they are out of food mode. They're no longer thinking about food. And so like a good example of that, I'll just tell you the first snake hooks that I encourage people to buy for children's pythons is not to buy one, is to use a pen on babies or use a paper towel tube or a rolled up piece of newspaper. And the reason why is they're free, they're soft, you're not gonna hurt anything with them. Like you can actually kind of hurt snakes with snake hooks if you don't use them properly, and they don't have a hook on them, so you're going to be discouraged from trying to pick them up with these, because in general, I don't pick up snakes with snake hooks. I don't think that's really what they're best for. But so like on this snake, these snakes, one of these has actually food wrapped my finger before, but what I'll do is I'm going to touch it with this hook. See, and now, see how he's checking out as I moved in? He was like, that might be food, but now he's moving away, and he's unlikely to food bite me now. Watch me get food wrapped right now as I said that. But you see how he's trying to move away from me now? He's no longer in food mode. He's not forward progressing. He's turned around. And so that's a way to pick him up just like that. And it becomes a reading thing. But if your snake, as you put your finger into the container, if they turn around and really pay attention to you and come forward, they're probably going to bite your finger and food wrap you. But do you see how I just touch them, they turn around, and then you can pick them up like that? So I got a question from one of my customers is, will these babies bite me if I try to pick them up? They might. If you see them, instead of turning around and facing away from you, they're like really cued in and excited about the movement. They might be thinking food, and they will actually have a go at your fingers and wrap it and throttle it and then try to eat it. It's kind of cute. Incidentally, the way to safely release a food wrap on a children's python is to run them under the faucet. Lukewarm water. These baby snakes, if I get tagged by them, I just take a spray bottle and I just spray them in the mouth until they let go with a water bottle. With the big ones, I'll just take them and run them under the faucet. So that's a big thing I'll tell you with these guys is they are very food bitey. That's just something, it's a feature of them. And I'm going to go through and try to find and reproduce some food bites and show you about hook and tap training. I don't know that all these will, because they're kind of calming down for the winter, but I don't think she's going to do it. It's just the way she's looking. Actually, if you guys want to know what looks like the early part of breeding season to me, this is it. She's going into shed. She's getting real quiet. She's a little bit, she's secretive. She doesn't want to be messed with. So she's not going to food bite. I'm not actually even going to mess with her, but let me find some. I'm sure one of these will still be in the mood to be raunchy. This one, much more likely to bite your butt if you just stuck your hand in there. Do you see the difference? I don't know if you can see the difference on that. Do you see how much more she's like, oh, maybe I'm getting fed. This female is not quite into food mode. See, she just keyed in. If that had been a warm finger or hand, she probably would have nailed it. So here I am, going in, touching, touching, touching. This is all tap hook training. See, she's not done yet. I wouldn't stick my hand in here. You are likely to get tagged. So you just kind of petting her with something until she realizes that this isn't food. Because keep in mind, sometimes when they come in here, they get fed. But she's kind of in it. I don't know. I'm touching her, touching her. Guys, children's pythons are one of the more food bitey snakes you'll ever meet. I don't know why, but so she's not actually going away from me, which is what I'd like to see her do. See, now she's kind of doing it. But let's see. I don't know. You think I'm going to get bit? Find out. If this was summertime, by the way, she definitely would have bit me. I'm getting away with stuff because it's wintertime. She's getting close to pre-breeding too. See that? Can you see that? Lumpy, lumpy, lumpy. It's time to put the males in. None of these are really being food yippy right now. Let's see. Let me go down to some sub-adults because they're probably not as primed for breeding. Let's see if I can get one of them to nip for you. In the summertime, this would be much different. But these are not actually being food responsive. So I'm touching them and I'm picking them up. This has all changed in the last week or so. I should have filmed this last week because these guys were trying to bite me last week. Animals and show videos, guys. Let's see what else. Oh, this is one. This one's gonna get it. See? Food bite. Food bite. Food bite. There you go. In the summertime, this is what they're all like. So this is just starting to turn down. But do you see how it's getting that real kind of aroused behavior? I'm going to play with it long enough that it stops thinking that it's going to get fed. I'm watching the snake, not my camera. Sorry, guys. But see now how it's less like that? And you guys just saw it go out and bite. But then I turn off the feed response. And now it's all reliable. The other funny thing I'll tell you is if when you're pleasure handling these guys, if you pleasure handle them too long, at some point they decide it's food again. So like the way I get food wrap most often is I'm carrying one in my hand as I'm like changing out the water bowls, and I hold it for 4 or 5 minutes and then turns around and bam, it tags me. I'm like, you little butthead. But that's just kind of how it works. Let's see. Try to get you another example. See, this one, see? This one would bite. And guys, I fed these a few days ago, so it's not like feeding them will turn that off. Let's see. See, it just opens its mouth a little bit, but it kind of knows. These guys are semi-used to this routine also. Do you see it's opening its mouth, it's biting a little bit? Let's see. Can you get bit now? But where you're going to have issues with them biting you is in food response, I think. It's not so much defensiveness, especially once they get past a certain size. But they will eventually turn around and food wrap you if you're not careful. So that's where the taming comes in. So understanding the motivations behind that is that you need to tap and hook train to manage their bites. Beyond that, I will tell you that the last thing you need to decide is how far and how tame you actually want them to end up. And without a lot of handling and just hook and tap training, you can manage to make a very reliable snake where you're not going to get bitten things. If you want to get to the point where it's just like a puppy dog, calm animal, that comes from interactions like several times a week. Just gentle, brief, like 5-10 minutes. If you pull these snakes out for 5-10 minutes at a time, a few times a week, and just handle them, they get very, very, very calm, but they would still be food responsive. So that's something I'll tell you is that if you want to get a very calm animal, you can definitely do that with repeated handling, especially after a year old. But at the same time, you're never going to make that feed response go away. That is a baseline physiological behavior. And you're just not going to get rid of it. So you always have to tap train, but you can make, and without a lot of effort, these snakes will become very reliable in that they won't bite you other than food responses, which can be managed with tap and hook training. But if you want to make a really calm animal, and these animals that are just really comfortable with human interactions, they need to be held like 2, 3, 4 times a week once they are a year old. I wouldn't push it too much before that. You're fighting development, they're small, they're fragile, and things are just not worth it. You won't change much through your efforts, and there's some risks. If you just wait till a year old before you start your pleasure handling in earnest, you're going to get to the same place at about the same time. That's just my personal opinion. So anyways, I hope that's answered some questions that I've been getting from people that have been buying snakes, and if you have a snake from somebody else, hope that helps you out too. So take care. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.